These are the Daves I know. Hello, and welcome to the Daves You Know. This is Dave Cox.
That's Dave Woodard.
How are you guys doing? This is a podcast that we've been talking about doing for quite a while. We finally got off our asses and started to do it.
Yes.
I know schedules and illnesses and all that stuff kind of fucks everything up for a little bit, but we're here now. This is our first episode, and we're gonna, try to get into some most of the podcast I believe is going to be music related, but also some political discourse as well.
Yeah, and the thing I think with the political part that's interesting is that I think we probably have slightly different viewpoints on certain issues.
Yeah.
I don't think either one of us are mainstream political party people, but maybe you lean a little left, I lean a little right, whatever. But it's important to have civil discussions, even if you disagree, because it's so polarizing right now.
Well,
people are mean about it.
Yeah, it's like if you don't agree with somebody, it's block delete. Instead of like, hey man, we can agree to disagree, or let's just, let's not talk about it anymore. You know what I mean? Like, let's talk about something else. But I don't know, it just seems like to hate people for their views. I mean, people's views are sculpted somehow.
Yeah.
Through their life, through their experiences through life, through money matters, through stuff like that. That's what, shapes people's, frame of minds. Obviously, I feel sorry for the people that watch 24-hour news cycles. I think that's the devil for sure.
That's a huge part of it, because I don't think the human brain is designed to take in unlimited information 24 hours a day.
And it's like, it's like, I'm not going to stick up for, which propaganda machine is better.
Right. And that's one thing that's always fascinated me, is that people that are especially diehard political party people, whatever their team is, they're convinced by watching whatever news outlet they like that, well, this other party, they're shady as fuck.
Right.
And they're doing all this shit in the background. They suck. They're doing this and that. But ours is clean,
everything's
and pure,
fine,
and it's cool.
It's all good. I mean, look what they're doing. Like, what are they doing?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like, it's like most of the time, I mean, let's jump right in. Let's talk about the border issue here.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any policy from any party.
Yeah.
I've seen complaining from the Republicans, and I've seen excuses from the Democrats.
Yeah, and whatever can be captured in a 5-second soundbite. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that seems to be
close the border, build the wall. It's
build
like 3-word things.
Well, it's like slogans. People only this might be been happening since the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 3-word slogans. You know what I mean? And that's all people understand.
Yeah, so the Democrats are let them in, and the Republicans are keep them out.
Yeah, build a wall, let them in. It's like, and to be human, I mean, these are people we're talking about.
Yeah.
These are people with children, but it's a mess down there, man. It's a mess down there. You know what I mean? So it's like something has to be done. Is it our drug policies that are causing all this stuff? Is it just, open arms, come on in? But I mean, what is it? You know what I mean? I get kind of confused by this stuff too, because you just hear so much from everybody. Hopefully they can find some kind of humane way to fix it, or at least curb it, or whatever.
Yeah, and the thing that's frustrating, I know people that have been trying to get their citizenship the correct way.
Right.
And it takes fucking years.
It does.
Maybe it shouldn't take years. Maybe it should. I don't know. But it's kind of an insult to them where they're following the process.
Right.
And they came here under terrible conditions and all that stuff, but they're going through the process and suffering in years and the expense and the classes and the test and all that stuff. And then they turn on the news one night and there's, 8,000 people strolling across.
Just rocking right through. Yeah. Just rolling right through. Yeah. And it's like, I'll tell you right now, what would humble this country is a spelling bee and a citizenship test.
Yeah. For people that are already citizens.
Yeah. I mean, I know I'm kind of scared to do both, actually. I gotta be honest, man. It's like, shit, would I pass the motherfucker?
Right.
It's like, I know a little bit about everything, but not everything about everything.
Yeah, whenever I, especially when it comes to Texas politics, whenever I start talking about Texas politics, if I'm with Diana's my wife.
Yeah.
When I'm talking about it with her, if I don't stop myself, she usually will, because she taught Texas government in college at
Okay.
Tarrant County
Well,
College.
there you go.
So I'll spout something off that I just heard or whatever, and she's like, "Well, actually," I was
As
like,
soon as you hear that from your wife, look out.
"It's like, oh, that's right. I got out of my lane there for a minute."
Yeah, I mean, how can you argue with somebody who's got a degree in teaching that
Right.
subject matter?
Yeah, exactly.
What do you get? I mean, but that's where we are right now. We're at the
Yeah.
problem where people are like, no, I don't care what facts are. I feel that.
Yeah.
Give a fuck about your
Fuck your
feelings.
feelings.
Yeah, dude, I don't give a shit. Like, your feelings aren't facts. Your feelings aren't news. Like, let's go on facts. And sometimes, nobody likes to get proven wrong or told they're wrong and then proven wrong. But we've got to come to this part of this. We got to come to the situation where it's like we have to humble ourselves and realize, like, man, I thought I knew about that and I did not.
Right.
And
does it have to be a party line issue?
Right.
And I think back, I think the first time I was able to vote in a presidential election was 1990.
Who'd you vote
I
for?
don't remember.
90. No. It would have been 88 or 92.
88.
Yeah, 90 would have been the midterms.
That's right. 88, because I was 20 years old.
Who'd you vote for?
In 88. I think I voted for Bush.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty
So
sure I did.
let me ask you this: have you always been, even at a younger age, more of a? I don't want to say right wing because I don't like that. I don't like libtard. I just like me personally. I've always been a liberal kind of guy.
Right.
Now, old school liberal.
Right.
Like old school. Like, you do you, I'll do me. As long as there's no children or animals involved, we're fine.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
would you say that you were kind of always more to the right, even growing up, or
It kind of varied. Like when I was like in ninth grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, and then into high school, I was much more about feelings, about how I felt about stuff. I had a Greenpeace sticker on my truck, and I was concerned about the seals and all that shit.
Yeah.
and that just sort of expanded. And then I would go to concerts though.
Yeah.
And if I was at a concert, a band that I loved, they would bring people in, and there'd be a table set up handing out Greenpeace leaflets,
Sure.
or
Yeah.
some other whatever their pet
This
project
is the 80s,
was.
right? The 80s.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that me going to punk rock shows, like and I grew up in Virginia Beach,
Okay.
and so in Virginia Beach there wasn't a huge punk scene. There was a decent local punk scene.
But you're close enough to DC.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So not a lot of bands came to Virginia Beach. They would go to DC.
Okay.
So as soon as I could drive, I would, hopefully my folks won't listen to this, because even though I'm 55, they'd still be fucking pissed.
Yeah, of course.
I would tell them, hey, I'm staying over at Joey's house tonight.
Yeah.
And then me and a friend or two would drive up to DC.
Oh, I think your phone's ringing. I'm kidding.
and hang out behind 930 Club specifically.
Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then
the old 930.
the old one.
Yeah.
And try to, like, if band was loading in, grab a case and walk in with it, or try to sneak in. And it was a 4-hour drive to DC.
Okay.
And about 50% of the time we were able to sneak into the club.
Oh,
The
okay.
other 50% of the time we didn't, so we just drank in the alley.
Yeah,
instead.
that's just
So,
hang out, listen
yeah.
to the music, hang out with your friends.
Yeah, so I saw a lot of it there. And there was you think about 80s punk rock scene on the East Coast, and you had Bad Brains and
Yeah.
Minor Threat.
Yeah.
And Black Flag started appearing there too, even though they California minus Rollins. He was
Of course. Yeah, he was a later guy.
and,
Yeah.
and those bands were pretty political.
Yeah.
And that was like formative years for me. So I was definitely leaning left, and then when I moved out of my folks' house when I was 18,
Right.
and moved down to the oceanfront of Virginia Beach in this shitty duplex, lived across the yard
Right.
of another duplex. It was a Coke dealer that lived across
Sure.
from me. So it wasn't the greatest thing. And when I had to start fending for myself, I think it took a few years, but I started becoming a little more conservative.
Like money wise, you think money wise, or just kind of like
kind of both, just seeing how people
people lived
acted
and
how they lived, and like
Yeah.
what was and started thinking about what was causing it. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't sitting there pondering
no.
that, but because I was just 18 and getting fucked up.
These
every
are just
night,
the
but-
years of like collective, like just
Forming things.
forming your brain and stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd have to say, because I'm 51, so I'm a couple years behind you, but I think in the 80s we can all say we all collectively hated Reagan because we were told to by the punk rock bands.
Right.
Like, I mean, what flyer didn't have Reagan with a mohawk or a bullet in his head? Or, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So I didn't really know too much about politics then at all. I just kind of went with whatever the bands were saying. You know what I mean? I was a huge MDC fan.
Yeah.
And you know those guys.
Oh,
Like
yeah. They have opinions.
They have pretty strong opinions. He's a gay commie. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I don't know about anymore, but
hey, we could have him on the show since he's a Dave.
I would love. Yeah, he is a Dave. You're right, because we also talked about doing like a highlighting certain Daves and.
Yes, Daves in history. I think I wanted to call.
Let's
it.
do that.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna do that, people.
Okay, yeah.
But I think it's funny because we all collectively I think we just kind of hated the government and the system because punk rock,
Yeah.
I think it was kind of more of a defense because being punk rock back then was very dangerous. Being in school, you were like one of 7 people, if even that many.
Yeah.
And I remember catching shit. I remember shit getting thrown at me from cars.
Yeah.
Having a mohawk.
Oh yeah. I grew up in this. So Virginia Beach is the closest city anyone's heard of from where I grew up, but I grew up in Chesapeake.
Yeah.
And at the time, Chesapeake most of it was pretty rural then, and I was in a tiny part of Chesapeake called Great Bridge.
Okay.
Which was cornfields and shit. So.
Yeah.
But me when I'm 15 years old and hair dyed and riding a skateboard and got whatever an anarchy thing on
Just
the back
having
of my
a skateboard. It was
a lot of being a kind of more of a agricultural community.
Sure.
Had beer cans chucked at your head when you're going down the street,
Yeah,
or if you're skating in the shopping center, then people coming up and fucking with you.
Yeah, if you're walking and you see a car go and then stop.
Yeah.
And then 3 guys get out, you're like, oh, dude, are we really going to do this again?
Yeah.
That's happened to me.
Yeah.
Me and friends of mine walking down the street, that's insanity. So that's interesting. I grew up on the East Coast in Florida when I got into punk rock.
Yeah.
Like I said, I didn't really have a political view. I just knew that I hated Reagan.
Mm-hmm.
We were told to hate Reagan. And I look back in history and I've done my research, and yes, he was not a great president. He was to a lot of people. It was... he was the puppet on the string. He was
Yeah, that might be a good episode because I'm a big fan of first term Reagan.
Okay.
Hated second term
Okay.
Reagan.
When everything started coming to life.
Yeah, and maybe it's when all the shit he did.
Iran Contra, all the stuff he didn't remember.
Right.
So in '88 you voted for Bush. So I didn't vote till '90. Okay. Or '92.
Right.
Because that's okay.
Yeah.
I voted for Clinton, and I'll tell you exactly why. Obviously I felt it was my duty to vote, to just be an American and vote and stuff like that. And we're a product of the MTV generation,
For sure.
And this is when MTV still actually mattered.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, it just wasn't a bunch of women yelling at each other on there. But I voted for Clinton because and I'll tell you the main reason. I thought he was going to legalize weed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to legalize weed. And what did he do? He fucking he turned the crime bill into he threw so many people in prison.
Yeah.
So many.
The crime bill that he and Biden worked very hard
yes,
on when
yes,
Biden was in the
I
Senate.
know. Yes.
What the fuck? And then all these when Biden ran last time, all these fucking punk bands that are my age are telling me to vote for Biden. It's like, did you guys forget what the fuck he was about?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, and clearly they did.
That's hilarious. I didn't even fucking think about that, dude. Oh my god. But so the next election, 96, I was almost like a protest vote against Clinton, so I voted for Dole.
Okay.
And I've never been a Republican kind of guy. I never have not been a Republican. I voted locally for Republicans in the local,
right?
Because I just liked what they said. I like they weren't, because the local elections is where it's at.
Right. Oh, that's where shit happens.
Your community is where it's at.
Federal's fine, but federal's more of a vision.
Yeah.
But if you want to impact your community, it's local. And I live in Oak Cliff. That's where we're recording now.
Right.
I don't consider myself a Republican, but I'm conservative / libertarian.
Sure. Yeah.
But our councilman is Chad West, who is a diehard Democrat, but he's fucking great at his job for local. So I voted for him every time.
I have to look at him. I live out in Louisville.
Yeah.
Which is north is in Denton County.
Right.
I remember voting for Dole. People are like, you voted for Dole? I'm like, hey, look, man, I was going to write in Homer Simpson. And I have before. You know what I mean? So, and that was back when I just remember political discourse was like, it just didn't take up everybody's time.
Yeah, and you did. There was a time. One of the things I remember from my childhood is that I never heard my folks talking about politics really.
Ever.
I kind of knew where they were at, but
Sure.
but they didn't talk, and they definitely didn't talk to neighbors about it.
No.
And very few people had yard signs because it was nobody else's fucking business.
Yeah.
you
Nobody
know?
cared. Now it's almost like a social statement.
Yeah, it's another
You know.
team to be on.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing like during the 2016 election, or maybe maybe the 2020 election. It was like any rational adult 2020.
Yeah.
Which I was like, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
like that I could go with because that kind of makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or the giant meteor one. Have you seen
Yes,
that?
yeah, or Bender, like
Yeah.
just from Futurama.
Exactly.
So people do have some good comedy when it comes to this stuff, but hopefully with our show, with this podcast, you know, we can kind of show people that, like, which I think, you know, we're pretty close enough to age where it's like, because last time I was over here hanging out and talking, we were kind of discussing format and stuff like that. We were agreeing on a lot of stuff, so
yeah.
It might not be the most exciting show ever that we thought.
Or we'll successfully make diehard Democrats and diehard Republicans hate us equally.
No, this would be great. This is gonna be good. Either way, it's gonna be.
But it'd
good.
be interesting. Like, I think we get future episodes. Immigration might be one that'll take up a whole episode.
Sure.
And I feel like with like key topics that are current like that one, I feel like we might agree on what the problems are.
Yeah.
But I think there'll be a discussion around the solutions.
Yeah, I think that's
and that's important to remember that too, because if we both agree that there's a problem and you think we should fix it this way,
Yeah.
I think we should fix it that way. That's not a reason to fucking crucify somebody.
No, not at all.
You know?
It's ridiculous. Maybe it's a way for, like, obviously as friends we could just kind of like meet in the middle, or but it's really for politicians to meet in the middle because it comes down to policy. It comes down to policy. That's what it comes down to.
Yep.
Even, you know, for what you're voting for, it's not necessarily what you're voting for.
Right.
You know, these are just, you know, the politicians, they just spout out these taglines and these, because what they want to hear. Yeah, you hear all the roars and stuff. They get in office, the actual work starts. It's like, meh.
Right.
I mean, it sounded good, but that's not going to work.
The lobbyists come in and start hanging out and saying,
the
you
money
know what, if we get some money on this project here, then they're like, oh, maybe I was wrong on my opinion on that when I was running.
That's another good discussion. Like, how the hell does somebody that's supposed to make a public servant, a congresswoman or congressman, or, you know, is supposed to make, what's their average, like 60,000, 70,000 a year,
Yeah, something like that,
maybe
yeah.
100,000? How the fuck are these people worth millions of dollars?
Yeah. And I saw a video, maybe we can talk about this on a future episode too. It was showing like long tenured politicians and what their net worth was when they got elected and then what it was when they left. It's amazing. Like,
yeah. Wow. You work really, really hard.
Yeah,
a lot of overtime.
Yeah. You had $20K in the bank when you got elected and you leave with $20 million.
It's
like, it shouldn't be like that.
And we can discuss it, but do you think it's maybe insider trading?
It's gotta be.
It's gotta be something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gotta be something like that.
Yeah.
Or lobbyist money or something like that. I mean, it's just got to be. It's how is it fucking possible?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's like, were they rich when they got in? Some of them were. Some of them had daddy's money when they got in. I'm not gonna deny that. But
yeah,
how the fuck do you turn that into $4 billion? How do you do this?
And
I want to know, how do you do this? Because I need $4 billion.
This is when my conservative hat does get put on, because when I think about shit like this, for some reason old quotes start coming to me, and Thomas Jefferson, who actually considered himself a classical liberal, but conservatives like a lot of what he said, but he was real big on, when you're elected into government, you should be a reluctant servant.
Yeah,
you don't want to do it. It's terribly inconvenient.
Right.
You're going to make less money than you were, whatever you were doing at home, but you do it to serve, and then you get the fuck out.
Right. Serve the public. Do your due diligence.
How many of them are reluctant servants now versus if I get elected and if I get reelected twice, then I can get a job with Lockheed and then I'll be set on their board and I'll be set for the rest of my life.
Exactly.
That's not the way it was designed.
No, not at all. But obviously throughout time, and it probably happened more in the 20th century, you know, like in the 1900s, like 20s and up. That's when things probably started going,
Yeah.
Maybe if I stick around for a while, I can maybe like stuff my pockets a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then whatever I do when I get out of office, which most of these people fucking stay in office like forever.
Yeah.
How old was Pelosi before she got out?
In her 80s.
I mean, Dianne Feinstein, she died in office, didn't she?
Yeah, her assistant was speaking on her behalf because she couldn't talk.
I mean, this is ridiculous. Like, to me, that's ridiculous because it's like ideas they come and go. But I mean, as we evolve and get older, like out with the old, in with the new. I'm not saying the new is better.
Right.
I'm not saying the old is better, but there's going to be changes in people's attitudes on what to do with stuff. I mean, I think we're probably going to be on the verge of legalizing weed nationally.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's happening this year or this election cycle, but pretty soon it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, fuck. Oklahoma is medical.
Right.
Okay. It looks like Amsterdam in that motherfucker, man. Like I mean, they're just like guys with signs like, here, free joint, like joints over here, and like what? But you gotta have a medical card. Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was OKC or Tulsa where I think the city council had to finally put a limit on the number of weed shops because there were old shopping centers where there'd be like 6 weed stores in
like,
one shopping center.
Come on, guys. Like, be a grower for fuck's sake, will you?
Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
show me what you could grow.
Yeah.
But and weed's an interesting topic as well because I just recently kind of quit smoking pot.
Right.
But it's been about 3 months now. I feel amazing. And anybody who knows me, who's listening to this podcast and knows me, knows that I'm a fucking regular Cheech and Chong when it comes to the weed. Like, I smoke fucking weed, man. Like, I'm a 50 bong hit kind of guy. I don't know if I was just getting bored with it or if I was... Yeah. I mean, it was definitely killing my lungs because I'm a bong hitting guy, you know. I mean,
right.
I know. Oh, it's better than cigarettes.
Shit.
Is it because it's smoke? It doesn't
Right.
matter. It's fucking smoke,
Right.
In your lungs. You know.
The closest I've come to dying from smoking weed is from a bong hit because...
Yeah, I got a good nice bong there. Yeah. But what's funny? What my point was like, great. Now that I just quit weed, they're gonna like legalize it in Texas at some point.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
So we're just waiting for Dave Woodard to stop, and then
right. I saw a bit the other day. Comedian, he was talking about the legalized weed stores, and he's like, "Man, somebody's missing an opportunity." I wish I could cite who it was, but I don't remember.
Right.
But he's like, I feel uncomfortable going to a store where you get greeted, and they're like, "What would you like? Here's what we have today."
Yeah.
He's like, "I want to walk into a store, and there's just a guy named Bob sitting on a shitty sofa with a dog in the corner that won't stop staring at me." You know?
A weed dealer.
Yeah, it needs to look like a weed dealer's house, not a boutique shop.
I love that. Yeah, like, you know, TV's blaring like it's Ren and Stimpy,
right,
or something.
Yeah. You want to hang out and smoke one before you go?
Of course you have to, because because it's free joint. You might as well hit the joint. It was for free. That's funny, man. I'm kind of curious as where that's going to go as well. Yeah. What do you care about legalized pot, or does it matter to you?
Yeah, to me it's it's similar to cigarettes. I think it should be restricted for underage
sure,
kids,
of course,
because the brain is still developing.
Absolutely, 100%.
But the libertarian part of me, which is much stronger than the Republican or conservative part, is if there's not a victim, there's not a crime.
True. Yeah.
So an adult can make adult decisions about what they do, what they put in their body.
Yeah.
Because it's not hurting anybody else.
Right.
So I don't, and I think the biggest compliment I can give for things like that is, you know what? I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
Just do it. Don't.
Yeah.
Whatever.
As long as it's not hurting me, you're fine.
Right.
You know, it's like, and I agree. I mean, yeah, I agree. It definitely, I mean, and trust me, I smoked weed since I was like in 8th grade.
Right.
I mean, I've literally been stoned since 8th grade up until like 3 months ago.
Wow.
Cheech and Chong, dude.
Yeah, you got
both
it all covered. Yeah.
So I got it covered. But I mean, like I said, I don't know personally if I was just getting like bored with it, or if I just, you know, I'll tell you right now, like after the first couple of days, like not being so foggy headed was like really nice.
Yeah.
And I realized I wasn't just coughing all the time, like a smoker's cough.
Right.
You know, because I quit smoking cigarettes like 6 years ago.
Okay. Yep.
And one of the best decisions of my life.
I bet. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. I can't believe I smoked that long. It's addictive. It's, you know, the chemicals are addictive. Weed is addictive too. I don't think in a chemical kind of way, but more in a habit forming way.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I should have to look at the science on that, you know, but I'm sure sometimes it's like, no, there's some chemicals, but I think it's more habit forming, because for me, it was like, wake up, go work out, come home, take some bong rips.
Right.
Take
it's just part of the routine.
Take a shower, get ready for work, take bong rips. Go to work. I'm bored. Go back home. Take some bong rips. Go outside. Smoke a joint. You know, it was just kind of routine, and I'm not downing the routine at all, but for everybody. But I just think for me, I think I finally was getting a little bored with it, man.
Yeah, you know what's funny too. So I don't talk about my weed experience in great detail,
Sure.
mainly because unlike you as a business owner, I work for a corporation.
Yeah.
So, but
yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah, but the thing that I found out more recently is that when, you know, now 8 months ago, when I got serious about working out and getting healthier,
yeah.
I started realize like I had a routine, and it was usually just a little bit before I go to bed.
Right.
And that was really it. It was just to kind of take the edge off and
sleep a little, help you sleep a little bit.
And then after 2 or 3 months of working out, I just had my routine, and I was still doing that. And then I went outside one night, and this is where I was starting to hit like 4 miles when I go for a jog.
All right.
And then lifting weights. So like serious working out. And I went outside, lit one up, and I was like, fuck, that just ruined, like, I had this like good feeling from getting off my fucking ass finally and doing something, and then that just deflated all of it. Right. I was like, holy shit. Yeah. That getting healthier ruined my fun with that. But I feel
healthy living.
Yeah, but I felt better. Like I felt more alert, and I didn't need to wind down because I was tired because I had a good workout in the morning. And I still have a ways to go, obviously, if you're watching the video. But,
but you've lost a lot, bro.
Yeah, 60, almost 65 pounds.
That's so good. I love hearing that because that's, first of all, that's good for your heart.
Yeah, big time.
I mean, you know, I don't know a whole lot of obese like 7-year-olds.
Right.
You know what I mean? So let's, you know, get that. But good for you, dude. I that's awesome to me because
you want to hear some old man shit too.
Go on.
So a couple weeks ago, I had to have my colonoscopy. So you know this is what you signed up for if you subscribe to the show.
Dr. Jellyfinger.
Old man shit. Colonoscopy, and I was in there, and you know, in the pre-op area, and the nurse coming around, and she's taking all the vitals and everything, and she took my blood pressure, and I've been borderline high blood pressure for years.
Okay.
Like the last 8 or 9 years, borderline. Where sometimes my doctor wanted me to take medicine, sometimes she wanted me to just look out.
Did that contribute because of the weight? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then so a couple weeks ago, having a colonoscopy, and the nurse taking my blood pressure, and she's like, "Wow, that's the best one I've had all day today." And I felt great.
That's good.
Because it was like 113/75.
Yeah, okay.
And mine's been where the bottom number was close to 100.
Wow,
before.
okay, yeah.
And face gets hot and all that shit.
Sure.
And the little things like that were like, okay, that was just a little validation of all that, you know, counting calories and making sure I work out and all that.
Yeah.
It paid off. And while old man Dave's getting a camera shoved up his butt, the nurse made me feel better because I had the lowest blood pressure she had taken all day.
Okay, and now this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Moon River.
And also on that one, so I've got a thing about when I go under anesthesia, and as long as I can remember, right before I go under, I say something really fucking weird.
Okay.
I just announce it in the OR.
Yeah.
And usually the doctor I've been going to for a while, he'll usually tell me or tell Diana what I said. Yeah. But I actually remember this one. And so the anesthesiologist I had was like this weird like football bro, which usually that's not anesthesiologists. They're like the weird guys that steal the supply. And so they rolled me into the room, and he's like, "Hey man, you ready to go to the Caribbean?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then he took the giant needle out, and he's like, "You're going on vacation to the Caribbean," and then he injected it into the IV, and it immediately started burning.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, "Is that supposed to burn?" He's like, "You're in the Caribbean, man. It's spiced rum." And I was like, "Okay." And then I clearly remember going, holy shit, this is hitting fast. And then I looked around the room and said, "Night, night, motherfuckers." and then went under.
I'm kind of scared to do this because I haven't done that yet. And I should. My dad was actually diagnosed with colon cancer. He beat it, and they caught it really fast. So they beat it. They got it all out there. He doesn't even have to do what do they call it? When you go in for your checkup or whatever.
Yeah.
He only has to do it like every 2 years, and he's 85.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
it is hereditary.
Yeah.
That's what I got my first one when I was 40 because I have a family history.
Okay.
And then you're supposed to go every 5 years, I think, and I go every 3. So
I need to probably. You're telling me I probably should probably do this. Right?
Dave and Dave talking about their buttholes.
Dave's buttholes online right now.
That's right.
The
good stuff's behind the paywall.
The burning sensation means it's working. Ow! This burns. It's working. Yeah, I need to go see Dr. Jellyfinger. I know they don't do it like that anymore, but I have to say that because it's just funny.
If you tip them, they will.
Yeah. All right, maybe so. And I might tip them. You never know. But I should probably do that as well. But that's good. Like health-wise, that's good, man. Like I've been on a big health kick for many years. Like my 40s, I've always kind of worked out from my 30s and 40s on. it was mostly my diet that was never kind of on point. Being a stoner was definitely contributed to like, oh, should I have that or the Kit? I'm having the fucking Kit Kat.
Right. Yeah.
In fact, I'll have 5. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I've always like I've my 40s I did a lot of like boxing and jiu-jitsu. COVID kind of fucked all that up, so I need to get back to that as well. But I've always lifted at the gym. I've always done that. I did CrossFit for years, which I'm sure that it helped kill my back.
I'm sure it did.
No, everybody, it's fine. But now I'm on a routine where it's like 5 days a week. In the morning, I'm up early, bro. I've turned into my fucking dad. Like I'm up at like 5:30, like bing, like.
Yeah, don't you hate when you hit that point?
Dude,
it's like, man, I'm gonna sleep till 9 forever, and then there's just a point where you wake up before 6.
I used to go to bed at 5:30 in the morning. Are you fucking kidding? Like, come on, man. In my 20s and 30s, like, hey, yeah, it's fucking 4. I better get to sleep, or pass out, whatever the situation was. But I've been on a pretty good health kick. Like, I try to take care of myself. I try to maintain like a decent diet and stuff like that. I've definitely been up to like 230, 240 in my heaviest before, you know what I mean? I don't know where I'm at now, but just the working out stuff is also like just good for me mentally.
Big time. And I think people forget that too. The physical health part is one thing, but I'm more clear and alert.
Yeah.
I can concentrate on shit a little bit longer because I have a really short attention
and
span.
you're not depressed.
But yeah, exactly. There's something to be said about the chemicals you release in your brain just from doing that.
And this will kind of segue into some good, like just people over-medicating themselves.
Yeah. There's a pill to fix everything.
Yeah, red one or blue one.
Yeah, right. And most of the things you can fix, you can do yourself. When it comes to if you work out, you can clear your head up a little bit. It doesn't mean that it works for everybody.
No, of course not. I mean, some people need medication. But
I'm fucking sick of every third commercial on TV being from a pharmaceutical. We're the only country in the world that has pharmaceutical commercials.
And I mean, are these new things like restless leg syndrome? What the fuck?
Yeah, who fucking cares?
You remember that? Like, I don't ever see commercials about that anymore.
Yeah, and right.
I haven't seen a commercial like that. I don't get it. I never remember seeing stuff like that. I'm not saying as we get older or as time goes on, we start finding out different stuff, but every kid has ADHD.
Right.
So, or do you just not want to be a parent?
Yeah.
And not want to deal with your fucking hyperactive kid?
You need a label to put on your shitty kid because you did a bad job.
Yes. Like, I mean, they're fucking kids.
Yeah.
They got energy. They've got questions.
Yep.
They're curious. Ooh, what's that? Bro, you just broke this.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's like, so yeah, it's like, I think, that kind of leads into like, these kids that were all over medicated growing up, has this segued into them turning into, fentanyl junkies or heroin junkies or, God forbid, mass shooters? Does it fuck up something inside of your brain that just clicks something weird? I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like I'm not saying yes or no either way.
Yeah. Do some of those things numb your senses or numb how you react or empathy?
Yeah.
Like,
is there a connection? That's
right.
That's my question. I'd love to get somebody on here that like actually knows the more science on that stuff. Is there a connection between stuff like that?
Yeah.
Because people do fucked up shit, man.
Yeah.
And they always have. I mean, don't get me wrong, but not in the abundance that they do now.
Right.
I mean, let's go on the mass shooting stuff right now. I didn't want to talk about this forever. But I know it's a touchy subject, but fuck it, we're going to talk about it. Do these people do it? That's my one question is like, does it happen because of past medication from when they were 5 up until then or whatever, or is it copycat stuff?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm just confused on that shit. Like,
I am too.
I've never had, and I know some people just are not born right.
Yeah.
John Wayne Gacy comes to mind.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Dahmer comes to mind.
Right.
There's
always someone that's not wired right.
Have you ever noticed that you've never met anybody with the last name of Dahmer?
Yeah.
I've never met anybody with the last
either.
name of Dahmer. Or Gacy. Well, there may be
might be a
There's
Gacy.
plenty of Bundys.
Lots of Bundys.
Al Bundy comes to mind. Just
But
kidding.
Dahmer's such an uncommon name. If that was my name, I would have changed.
Yeah, well, yeah, you'd have to. Because people just be like, what? Your name is Dahmer? Well, it used to be.
Yeah.
Not anymore. But, I mean, nobody's named that. Like, you know, did Hitler's kids, did they change their names? They had to have.
Right. He wasn't the only.
I mean, they could have been. I mean, these are names. I mean, they're, you know, it's
a
like.
last name.
I mean, people are like, oh, he's gone? Okay, we're done. We're done. These are the thoughts that keep me up at night, people.
Yes, exactly.
But I just, when it goes back to like medication stuff, it's like, it just seems like people were more apt to like try to find a drug to fix something.
Yeah.
You know, now don't get me wrong. My doctor put me on testosterone at 49 or 48. Yeah. And I'm glad he did, man.
It's a game changer.
I'm glad he did. You know, I try not to abuse it, but try not to fly off the handle here. But it did change because before I got on it, I was very depressed, and all the working out in the world wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
When I remember I went to my doctor, I'm just like, because he did jujitsu. He's like, "Where you been?" I'm like, man, I'm just like laying in bed and literally crying at comedy movies and like I'm like crying at Mr. Mom. Like, what? He just wants to be a mother, you know? And he's just like, okay. He's like, we need to do some blood work, you know?
Yeah.
And so we did the blood work, and he's like, oh, man, cholesterol's good. You know, kidneys are good. Everything's good. He's like, your testosterone levels. I'm like, yeah. He goes, 185.
Mine was 170 last year when I got it checked.
And I didn't know anything about that shit. So I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that's good, right? He's like, yeah. He's like, 300's low.
Yeah.
So you're like, phew. And I said, what are you going to do? He's like, I'm going to put you on testosterone cypionate, which I want to be honest here. In my 30s, there was about a couple months period I was on a weightlifting team, and I got offered by a cop and a fireman, by the way, if you want to need some oh, okay, fuck it, I'll try it, you know. It was okay, but it definitely, my wife was like, you're a dick, dude. Like, you look good, but you're a dick. So I just skipped all that shit. But I didn't realize the science behind that is like, if you, if you replace your natural testosterone with synthetic,
it stops
producing it.
Yeah.
And I told him, I was like, I did that stuff in my 30s. And he's like, exactly why we're here today, sir.
Oh, man.
So I was like, I mean, it was a brief moment. It really was.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But as we get older, we do know that your levels drop.
It's natural.
I mean, it's a natural. But I'm on a prescribed amount.
Right.
I don't go over the amount.
You don't have to buy it.
I can't.
You don't buy it in an alley somewhere.
No, yeah, I'm not starting Fight Club or anything, people. Like, I mean, but it's like, because my wife would be like, I'm out, dude. Like, there's no way. I'm not putting up with this shit, you know. But it's just weird. I mean, getting older is weird.
It is.
Because I think we're still very young-hearted, very young-minded, you know what I mean? But it's like, the body's getting older.
Yeah.
Nothing you can do about that.
And it makes me think about like different ages that my parents were,
Yeah.
and what I thought they were like,
Yeah.
and what they probably were actually like.
Right.
You know? It's
Right.
like, because in my brain, I don't feel any different than I did when I was in my 20s or 30s.
Yeah.
But my body lets me know. And I'm kind of lucky with the testosterone thing. I got it checked last summer, and I'm able to keep mine up taking Clomid, which is a prescription.
Yeah.
That prompts you to make your own.
Yep.
So that's working, thank God, for the last year.
Yeah,
so I haven't had to go to TRT yet.
That's good, yeah.
And then, get checked every 3 months. They do the blood work and all that stuff. And then there was a point over the summer where for some reason my production just took off.
Yeah.
And I was telling Diana, it's like, I feel fucking great. Like, I'm going out for a run.
Yeah.
And I was running a couple miles then, and it's like, I ran 4 miles today. I feel great. And it's like, I want to lift weights. And then when I got my blood work done that time, it was like 1,500 and something. I was like,
Hey.
And the doctor's like, we're gonna have to cut the dosage down a little bit.
Yeah, because that's not good for you too. I mean, if you get a little crazy, I mean, that's heart attacks. You're talking about, like headaches and stuff like that. Like, it's just not. It's not good for you. I mean, you feel great, but there's stuff going on inside of you. You know, your kidneys, your liver. I mean, you're putting damage on that shit.
And when
man.
when your T gets that high, your estrogen, and we're not doctors, so
do not take our advice.
Don't listen to our advice. Your estrogen goes up too.
Yes.
So you can start. You worked real hard to get rid of your tits and lost weight, and
you'll grow them.
You'll start growing.
Yeah, you'll grow them.
So there's other shit along with it too.
That estrogen shoots up. You'll start crying at movies like Mr. Mom again.
So make sure you see your medical practitioner for any advice about testosterone usage.
Yes, not our advice. We're just talking about personal experience.
Yes.
We'll put a disclaimer at the bottom of the screen. But that's cool. I'm glad you lost that weight because you dropped a lot, bro.
Yeah,
Like
still
a
got,
lot.
Still, 65 and got about 25 or so more to go.
Yeah, but
it's plateauing out. It's really hard.
Well,
now,
that's the
but,
thing. I mean, you get to a point where you do hit this plateau. You got to change your routine up a little bit like that. This past year I got my personal training certificate. I just did it to do it. Like if somebody wants me to personal train them, that's great. But I'm just gonna have you do my routine.
Right.
I'm not going to think too much about it. You know what I mean? Like, okay, just do this and do that. This is what I do.
Right.
Which may not work for everybody. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I really think when it comes down to more like the diet, and I mean, food these days, especially in our country, is just fucked.
Everything's processed.
It's just terrible. It's so terrible for you. It's just, it's even, and then when you try to go get decent food, it's like you're spending hundreds of dollars. Like, I mean, and food already costs a shit ton of money right now. So,
right.
You know what I mean? So it's like trying to go like organic or this or that or whatever like that. It's hard to do. I knew people that were like vegan and they literally just would eat chips.
Right.
Corn chips, or maybe not even that, because does corn have feelings too? I don't know. But sorry, my vegan friends. But they would just eat junk food, but not stuff with
not with whatever.
Yeah,
like
all the stuff you can't have.
And
yeah,
like
all the
that.
stuff you can't have as a vegan. So
Yeah.
they would just like corn chips and just you know what I mean, like the blue chips. Like it's like that's all you're fucking eating. Like
right. And you're acting like you're better than me.
Yeah, it's like you can't do that, dude. By the way, nice leather shoes.
Yeah.
That's what I loved about that shit. But yeah, man, like also on the show we're gonna have some musical guests as well.
I'm stoked about that too.
Yeah,
But
we got some good lineup stuff, man.
Yeah, we can't say who.
Not till I get them totally booked, but
yeah.
We're gonna have some really good guests, and between us we know quite a few people, and we played in some bands and stuff like that. Have you played in like when you were younger? Did you play more like punk rock bands?
It was interesting. So in Virginia Beach, I played in punk rock bands that nobody's ever heard of, which is basically, if you want to describe my musical career of the last 35 years. It's playing in bands that nobody's heard of. But
thank you good nights.
It's like you can name the bartenders because you can see them easily because there's no one in the room. But I played in punk bands, but then especially right when I got out of high school, when I was living down at the beach, like I talked about earlier, I was working in the warehouse at a surf shop in Virginia Beach and barely making enough money for rent.
Sure.
And then I had a buddy that worked there, and he played in a cover band.
Okay.
And he's like, "Hey, dude, I know you play in your punk bands, but are you interested in playing bass in this cover band I got? We're playing whatever, like the college radio hits of the mid-late 80s.
Okay.
And I was like, man, I don't know. And he's like, our guarantee is $2,000 per show.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck yeah,
I'll do that.
So,
I'll do that.
So I'll be all edgy playing at this, like a dive, or then in Virginia Beach, it'd be like at a house show or a warehouse or something like that. Sometimes at a skate park.
Sure.
And do that and not make any money at all.
Yeah.
But being all edgy, like, I'm badass, I'm a punk rocker. And then the next night I'm playing on the boardwalk in Virginia Beach, and and my cut's $500 from the
next
show.
up, Wham! You know what I mean? Like this cut by Wham! You know, that's hilarious.
So
like,
I was a poser.
I think we're all posers. I think we all were posing at some point or another, man. I got into punk rock. I first heard punk rock. I want to say like probably 1983, 84. I was in 6th grade, and I lived in upstate New York in Binghamton, or in Endicott, which is like a suburb of Binghamton, New York, southern tier. And my best friend Keith, he had an older brother named Kevin, and he had a friend named Matt. Now Matt had an older brother that came back from California, was in the military there, and came back from California, and was like, you got to hear this shit. It was the Dead Kennedys.
Oh yeah.
Okay, first of all, and the first song I ever heard was Too Drunk to Fuck.
Right.
Okay, so he pukes at the end of that song. If you've never heard the song, he throws up at the end of the song, like violently throws up on the end of the song. Okay, first of all, I didn't think you could say the word fuck on an album.
Right.
Let alone call it that on an album. And what are the other songs? Because I think it was just a recording of all their 7 inches at the time. So it was like Too Drunk to Fuck, Kill the Poor, Holiday in Cambodia, Police Truck. Which Police Truck, like the riff to Too Drunk to Fuck is extremely catchy. It's kind of surfy, rockabilly kind of.
There's a lot of surf in there.
There's a lot of surf stuff. I was a big Sonnenberg surf instrumental guy. But Police Truck, really, I was like, wow, like that. It was like driving. and I had another friend of mine had an older brother that also had, a cassette tape of just, and I remember, he had the Angry Samoans on there.
Yeah.
And, I think maybe some old Billy Idol. It could have been Gen X.
Yeah.
But it was Billy Idol songs like "Dancing with Myself." It could have been
Gen X recorded those too.
So,
yeah.
And I just remember I didn't really get into punk rock at that point, but I knew it existed. You know what I mean?
I kind of stumbled into it because I clearly remember I was like 11, maybe 12.
Yeah.
And went to it was called Roses. It was this department store, kind of like a Kmart sort of in the town where I live, and I was just looking at records, and I had money because I'd saved my allowance for a few weeks, and I was just looking at records with nothing that I really wanted to get, and I saw The Clash, Give 'Em Enough Rope.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And I just looked at the cover of it, and I was like, "That's cool." I'd never heard of The Clash, didn't know anything about it, so I was like, I'll buy that.
Yeah.
And I bought that and listened to it, and I loved it. I played it all the time.
Yeah.
It still didn't occur to me that it was punk rock, because this is in 1979.
Yeah.
And I was 11 years old.
Okay, yeah.
And so and it's not like you could get on the internet and go, "What is this?" It's like, I just like
the internet. What the fuck is that?
And that was just, to me, that was just cool music. But then when I got into junior high, especially, then I realized the draw of music and songs that terrify your fucking parents.
Yeah, man.
And to me, that's what early punk rock was about, because I would listen to Dead Kennedys, which has got to be the most terrifying thing a parent's ever heard.
Yeah, I mean, his voice I've never heard a voice like that ever, dude.
Yeah.
Still to this day.
And then I had the TSOL record that had Superficial Love.
Yeah, Abolish Government.
Abolish Government.
Yeah.
And Suicidal Tendencies.
Wow, yeah.
And I remember my folks basically having an intervention with me, because I was listening to I Saw Your Mommy over and over and over again at my room.
Wouldn't scare anybody's mom.
Yeah,
not in the early 80s.
And my parents were like, "What's wrong with you?" And then me and my friends would have.
Did you tell them you just wanted a Pepsi?
Yeah, as like, if you would have gotten me a Pepsi, none of this
Everything
would have
been fine.
And me and my friends would just write gross out lyrics.
Yeah.
And then read each other's and see, and then we'd decide oh fuck, just trying to shock each other.
Yeah.
And I kept a little notebook. And when my folks came in my room over listening to Suicidal, they also found my notebook. And it was shit that I was writing specifically to be disturbing.
Yeah.
And it was funny. We were just making each other laugh.
Right.
But my folks read that and they heard what I was listening to, and they're like, "What have we done wrong?"
Everything. Yeah. That is so weird. I have a very similar story, because at that point, after I'd heard the Dead Kennedys, I went out to the local mall, and whatever the rec store was, like Sam Goody or Camelot or whatever it was, they had records. And I remember, because also on that tape that my friend Matt had brought, that I was telling you about, also was the In God We Trust stuff.
Yeah.
So that was the fast, this guy's screaming Nazi punks fuck off and religious vomit, and he's making fun of religion with Mickey. I mean, that blew me the fuck away. Because my understanding of punk rock at that point was shows like Quincy.
Right.
You remember the punk rock episode?
Yes.
Okay. And Chips.
Yeah.
You remember,
and there was an after-school special, I think, too.
The day my son turned punk. I think it was more mid-'80s by the time I was actually into punk rock and skateboarding at that point. But that was my view on it. It's just these crazy so when you actually hear these really punk rock bands, real punk rock bands. So I have an older brother named Tim, and happy birthday, he just turned 59.
Happy birthday.
And I would talk to him on the phone, because he was stationed in the Navy in California, and I was like, "Oh man, my friends, they were playing this band called the Dead Kennedys." He's like, "Oh yeah." He goes, "I've seen them a couple times, man." I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Dude," he's like, "You really want to hear some good stuff? Fear."
Oh man.
He sent me the Fear the record, the cassette. I know that doesn't make sense to anybody young.
Yeah.
But and dude, I mean, because that's just chock full of just offensive, downright. But it's a brilliant record. It's a brilliant record. And then that I remember going to the mall and he sent me that tape, and me and my friend Dave Brown, another Dave, we were in elementary school together, and we were kind of starting to listen to some of this at the time. And I was still breakdancing.
Oh man, are there any photos of this era?
I don't know, but I'll look. If there is, I'll definitely look. I'll definitely put them up. I'm sure my parents do.
Go to Chess King and get some.
Chess King.
Some pants with
Chess
zippers on
King
this.
was the king, dude. Like, come on, let's face this shit. So I remember but I remember going to the record store, and I still have the Too Drunk to Fuck 7-inch I bought. As a kid. Like, I was like 11, 12, 13, like I was like.
I still have that TSOL record.
I mean,
too.
I just was like, you could fucking buy this? Like, nobody questioned it. Here you go. And I remember at the same time going over and looking at Dead Kennedys, because they had like different sections, and they had a punk section. And I remember looking at Dead Kennedys, and they had the In God We Trust album. The lyrics are on the back.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, the lyrics are on the back. Ram it up your cunt, Anita. Oh my! I was just like, I didn't buy that album, but I remember I'd go there every time I go to the store, and I would read the lyrics on that record. It just mesmerized.
Yeah.
Of what, because I couldn't understand what he was saying.
Right.
I mean, I obviously do now because I've heard the albums a million times, read the lyrics.
Yeah, but if you're reading along, no.
Dude, I could not believe it. So, fast forward, I moved from Binghamton, New York around 84, 85 to Tampa, Florida. So, Tampa, Florida, when I moved there, I got into skateboarding. And from the soundtrack was hardcore punk.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just what you find. And it was a brilliant soundtrack for it. Like,
Yep.
what else are you going to wreck to?
Right.
Not Run DMC.
Right.
I was spinning on my head to that.
Yeah.
I had to find, you know what I mean? So, and that's when I really started diving into like punk rock,
Yeah.
But I was going to tell you, up in New York, after I got that Fear album, me and my buddy Dave wrote fucked up lyrics just to like, yeah, let's do it. And my fucking parents found that shit. Broke my police truck 7-inch. Didn't find my Too Drunk to Fuck 7. Took it away from me, at least.
Right.
Yeah, fascists. I got in trouble. Like, I remember getting in trouble for writing that shit because they were like, I mean, this is a time period where like parents just didn't get, most parents don't get it with their younger kids, but they really didn't understand this.
The difference in our parents' generation and ours is dramatic.
Because my parents are from the silent generation. Yours probably are too. You know.
Yep.
That means they grew up in the McCarthy era. Like that's not boomers. The McCarthy era was very different.
Yep.
And they were just told to shut up, don't worry about it, everything's under control.
Yeah.
So that's just funny that you have that same fucking story. Like that is like, wow, we have so much in common. I told you.
Yeah. And another thing too that I think about stuff that kids now can't relate to, and I would always, as soon as it came out, I would go to this one record store and get Maximum Rock and Roll.
Yeah.
And then just look through the back and all the ads in the back where a band could take out a tiny little like 4-inch, 2-inch ad, and it was like to get our EP on a cassette.
Yeah, demo.
You put $4 in a concealed envelope, and then have an address stamped envelope inside that one with your address on it.
Yeah.
You mail that to them, and sometime in the next 6 months, you might get a cassette in the mailbox.
This is called snail mail, people.
There was a band, I still don't know what happened to them, and I don't know why I remember this, but the first one I ordered like that at a Maximum Rock and Roll was a band called Pillsbury Hardcore. And
that sounds familiar. I don't know if I've heard of it.
For some reason, I remember the EP being like the Pillsbury Doughboy, but he's holding a knife with blood dripping off of it or something like that. And I was like, this is stupid. I'm going to buy that.
It's like, whatever. Because that was the great thing about, like, when I first started into hardcore punk, like, it was the band names that I just was like, because even, I told you, my brother, like, when he's telling me, like, he was stationed in San Diego. So, yeah, he's like, yeah, I've seen Dead Kennedys. He's like, dude, you should listen to the Circle Jerks and, like, Fear and DOA. Like, that, he turned me on to a lot of that stuff, It wasn't really his genre, but it was new back then, so people were gravitating to it. I mean, even if you go back and look at pictures of shows back then, there's a lot of very normal looking people there. Like, I mean, normal, like just kind of normal jock haircuts and stuff like that, that they just were there to witness this shit. Like, what the fuck is it? We heard about it,
And a lot of times especially in on the West Coast, a lot of the bands didn't even look punk.
Yeah, the Circle Jerks.
Yeah,
like,
I saw the Circle Jerks sometime in the 80s. It was Circle Jerks and 7 Seconds touring together.
Saw that tour.
And they played at a place called the Boathouse that got destroyed by a hurricane about 10 years ago. In Norfolk, Virginia. And there's a full video of the show I was at that's on YouTube.
Really? I love that.
And I just had this memory of what the Circle Jerks looked like at that time, like in the late-ish 80s. But then looking at the video, like
Keith had dreads. He had dreads at that point.
He had dreads. They were short. He just started growing them. Greg Hetson's wearing like a button-down collar shirt and OP shorts or something.
Exactly. Gotcha shorts. Like, I mean, look at old pictures of Greg Ginn from Black Flag.
Yeah. Always had button-down collar shirt
Dude,
on.
I mean, those are like Salvation Army clothes he got. Like, those guys didn't have any money.
Right.
Like, they didn't have money for leather and spikes and all that stuff. They didn't want to dress like that.
Yeah.
I highly recommend people like check out the Henry Rollins book, Get in the Van.
Okay, I haven't read it.
It's great. It's on audiobook as well, and it's him doing it. So
Right.
obviously he's he likes to talk like we do.
Right.
A lot. And it's brilliant. It's basically the first part of it is kind of like his memory from before Black Flag and then getting into Black Flag. And then at some point he started his journal. So it's just, February 14th, 1983, played Philadelphia last night, broke my knuckle on some guy's forehead, got jumped after the show, the promoter didn't pay us. I mean, it's a really good insight to like what touring was, because back then, like, I thought a band was like, if you were in a band, you were rich.
Right.
Because I was just part of the MTV generation.
Yeah.
Like, if you were in a band and on a record, you were rich.
Yep.
No,
not even
those
close.
guys lived on $5 a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was their per diem. I mean, the Descendants lived on $5 a day up until literally 20 years ago.
Yeah, and they had an old U-Haul truck with it looked like the inside of a submarine where they had racks built.
Yeah,
and those bands didn't stay in hotels.
No, man.
If they couldn't crash at someone's house, they're sleeping in the back of their fucking U-Haul.
And also, and you probably know this from playing in bands too. Like if you tour, because I toured a lot, playing in bands in the '90s and stuff like that. But it's like if you get a place to stay, it's like cool. Well, you're not going to sleep because everybody's going there to party.
Yeah.
And you're the band, so you're supposed to stay up and party with them. I usually stayed up and partied with everybody. all day, all night,
You don't want to be rude.
No, I don't want to be rude. I'll do some cocaine. Is there any more cocaine? And but it was like you weren't sleeping. You were, every now and then we'd have to, when I was an REO speed dealer, one person had to take turn to sleep in the van because we had to protect the fucking equipment.
Shit,
yeah, I mean, people would break into your shit and steal your stuff. I mean, that was very common. Definitely got some pretty good road stories from a lot of these. I'm sure you probably got some pretty ones too. So
we need to do
we'll touch base on that. Yeah, we'll touch base on some touring stuff. Hopefully, when I get, I'll break this one. We're gonna get Sammy Town from Fang on here.
Yeah,
I mean, he's already said he's gonna do it, but I can't wait to get some of his fucking tour stories.
Yeah,
I mean, they toured, man. Like, because a lot of those bands, they kind of stayed more regional and stuff like that.
Right.
But Black Flag opened those roads for all those bands to start touring and stuff. And Fang, he told me a story about how they played Baltimore, and the promoter couldn't pay him or whatever. So Dan Higgs, who's a pretty popular tattooer, any tattooer, like they know Dan Higgs. They spray painted, their van. They did they did art all over the van. And Sam's got some of Dan Higgs' earliest tattoos, man. Like, it's pretty cool to see him, dude. So
that's good. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to getting him on the show. He's a good friend of mine. I met him when I was on tour singing in a band called Billy Club. I met him, and Jim Martin from Faith No More was actually playing in Fang at the time. Yeah.
Wow.
I remember I ran out. I was like, "You're Sam." I was like, "Are you Jim Martin?" The fuck, dude! Like,
what are you doing?
What are you doing here? Like, and me and Sam just hit it off right away. Like, really good buds, like right away. And I love that dude, and he's a good guy. We'll get him on the show so you guys can hear his story. It's really interesting, and it's just interesting.
And that I have a feeling that'll be a full episode. That's not going to be a segment.
No, it'll be a full, because and I also want to talk about recovery and stuff like that, because he's been clean for I think he just celebrated 16 or 17 years. I mean, Sam is definitely part of the old drug 80s. You know what I mean? I mean, they were, I mean, that's just party and stuff like that. But he's got his which the great thing about him is he can laugh about stuff like that. So you know what I mean? Like, not it was no, yeah, we did this, we had, and then we went to this party and did that. He can kind of embellish on the good times before it got dark.
Right.
No, but he can also talk about his recovery and what he puts into that, because he puts in a lot. Those guys put in a lot to the recovery.
Yeah.
So I'd like much kudos to him, and so I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to that interview as well.
That'd be a good one.
Yeah, it's gonna be really good. Man, we've been talking for an hour.
We have, and that's right. You guys can't see it if you're looking on video, but knowing one thing that Dave and I both know about ourselves is that we talk a lot.
Yes.
Thus, the Daves
Trust me,
I
if
Know
anybody knows,
podcast.
they know this.
So we were concerned about we don't have Joe Rogan stamina as far as there's not a subject I think that I could talk about that long. There might be,
Yeah,
but
we'll see.
we don't have a limit to the length of the show, but we want to be aware of where we're at because
We don't want, we don't want people to get bored. We want to, and obviously this stuff gets edited and kind of like squashed together and stuff like that. But we kind of made it a point to make sure, try to keep it interesting for people that are watching and listening and stuff like that. I mean, it's this is fun to do. We've talked about doing this for a while. I've had multiple people tell me you should do a podcast, and all the people I've told that we're doing this are super excited.
Yeah.
Like, I can't wait to hear this.
Yep.
I mean, it's all the same bullshit they hear me say all the time. Anyway, they're like, yeah, I've already heard all this shit. Like, yeah, I know.
But it sounds really cool with
Except
AirPods in.
Yeah, except for the breakdancing. Nobody knew about that.
Right, that's I want to dig into that a little more.
I guarantee you there's got to be some pictures of me doing that shit somewhere. Too bad, I say. There's no video.
Right. And the only reason I think that's funny is that I clearly remember, I think I was 9th or 10th grade.
Yeah.
I went to Chess King and I bought a pair of white pants.
Oh, yeah.
And then they had zippers that went all the way down the side.
Yeah.
And when you unzip it, it was, I don't know what color it was because I'm colorblind, but
Probably black.
I was told it was like teal.
Oh,
or something
yes.
like that. So it would flare out.
A lot of teal
like
in
that.
the 80s.
Yeah, a lot of teal.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I remember
And I'd wear like a button-up shirt with no sleeves on it.
Yeah, fucking 80s. All right, we'll definitely have to find some. If you got some old pictures, I'll definitely find some old 80s pictures. Like school pictures are usually the best because they kind of like, they just represent that era.
Yes.
Or era of the time. So, but you just keep saying Chess King, and I just chuckled to myself because it was like, come on, Mom, take me to Chess King. I got to get a new pair of like gray in the front, black in the back Guess jeans, dude. Like tighter than my jeans are now. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I mean, I can barely get my feet through them. It was just amazing. Like, because I was out with when the bell bottoms went out though.
Yeah,
super tight.
Oh, yeah. And I think just to give everybody an idea of what a lot of future episodes, I feel like are going to be a lot like this one.
Yeah.
Where I think it was a dual stream of consciousness.
Yeah, you just gotta.
Some are going to be focused. I think
Sure.
we're going to have topics like there'll be a tour stories.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
There'll be guests, and if the guests are have just great stories to tell, the entire episode might be that.
Yeah.
Other guests, if they don't have time, it might be a 20-minute segment,
Sure.
and then we work that into the rest of the
Yeah,
show or
yeah.
whatever. But I think some shows are going to be very topic focused, and many of them are going to be this. So
just kind of like topic focused, but kind of random, like just and then this time, oh look, you did too. Holy shit! Like, I think that's cool though. I mean, and that's as long as it keeps people interested in listening for a little bit, that's great. I just I was a vocalist for many years in a band, so it's like I like entertaining, but I think my voice can't handle it anymore, dude. Like,
really?
it just can't. Like,
Yeah.
I posted on Facebook like, hey, I had a great time, but I'm done.
Right.
I was singing in a band called Crucial Times. Great fucking band, great punk rock band. Like, and Travis, the drummer, him and Manny wrote like just song after song after song, and I could tell I would go and record. Like recording, I can hold up for a little bit,
right.
but show after show after show, I just can't do it. And we did some shows, and I remember telling him, I was like, man, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Like I'm losing my voice. You know what I mean? Like, just losing it. Like, I never was a vocalist that like warmed up.
Right.
Just give me
Woodard
the
in the
mic.
back going la 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 la.
Yeah.
How now, Brown?
Right. It's like, or like the death metal, like doing that kind of warm up stuff. I've never did that, so I just get the mic and scream or yell and whatever. And we did a couple shows, and most of the shows were pretty good, but some of the shows were like 10 drunk people just I'm just like, man, like, as much as I love playing this music, unfortunately physically it's getting to throat, like voice wise, it's just I didn't want to wreck my pipes. Like I could tell that it was tearing my throat up. I could totally tell.
Right.
I'm really bad about not singing from the diaphragm.
Right.
Even though my vocal coach Amy taught me that, but Amy Kernow, and she's a brilliant singer. Her voice of an angel. I literally was like, "What's a diaphragm?"
Right.
Isn't that what you ladies use? She's like, "No, you fucking idiot." It's like, okay, what is it? So, now I would still go do vocal stuff with her because I just had fun doing it.
Yeah.
And just to see where my range was. I thought it was a baritone, but I am a bass.
Oh, okay.
I thought
can
she's
see
like,
that, yeah.
she's like, you're not a baritone. I was like, that's the deepest. She's like, bass is the deepest.
So if you were an Oak Ridge boy,
papa papa mow, I'd be that guy.
Yeah.
I'd be that guy, you know, which I'd be cool with that. I mean, you know,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But yeah, so, but you know, I just remember being in the van and just going like, you know, fucking playing to like fucking 5 to 10 drunk. I'm over it, man.
yeah.
And I started doing a radio show with Jamie on K to Win Streaming.
Yep.
I love being her co-host. It's super fun. Hopefully I have her on the show here too, because she's really fun, very quirky, very, very knowledgeable about music, especially rockabilly.
Cool.
She knows her shit, dude. Like, she's turned me on to stuff that I'm like, what's this? What's this? You know, and vice versa. I've turned her on to stuff like local stuff.
Right.
She's like, I've never heard this. I'm like, oh, it's great fun. We played some UFOFU on the show the other day. Have you ever heard them? Oh yeah, they're great band. My buddy Joe Butcher, great band. Their drummer was 15 when they were touring. They had to wait in the summertime because he was in school.
Man,
yeah. Ben, he actually passed away, unfortunately, several years back. He had some kind of cancer, which seems to be going around right now.
Yeah.
That could be another topic for another show, but that's been kind of beat me up lately. I got a couple friends that are battling that right now. So, you know, it's we're getting older, man. It's just, you know, I'm not getting wedding notices anymore.
Right.
I'm getting like I'm sick notices. So
right.
So, you know, well, bro, I had a good time. I mean, I'm really looking forward to doing this more.
Yeah, I think this will be one of many, and hopefully there's a few people out there that'll enjoy.
Yeah, I think there'll be a couple
hearing the stories.
I think there'll be a couple,
and if not, it's still fucking fun. Anyway,
I'm having a good time.
Yeah,
and I'm not even stoned.
Right.
So, you know, we're just gonna really try to just have a good time and like have some good guests that like people could get really, just learn, you know, get some cool stories and information from that. Like, wow, I didn't know that. You know, like. So it's to me that's always interesting. That's why I like some of these stuff. And I'm not a huge podcast guy. Like, I don't listen to tons of them.
I don't listen when I'm on a road trip. I do.
Sure,
That's
if
really
I'm driving, like
yeah.
I like some Joe Rogan stuff because you know, people either love or hate him, but I like the guy. I like what he has to say to some of the stuff. You know, some of the stuff is to me is kind of bullshit, but it's a podcast. You're not supposed to agree with everything. I've been really digging up Bill Maher's podcast, and the reason why. Is because he has guests on that he does not agree with at all about anything really, but he still has them on, and they have a discussion. They don't argue. They laugh. Yeah, they make fun of themselves. I love it. That's where we need to go.
It is.
This, you know
and
what I mean?
I have a new. We were trying to end, but I have a newfound respect for the old school liberal.
Yeah.
Because. That's the way they are.
Yeah.
Just it's cool, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And the new school leftist is a topic for a different episode. But
yeah, we'll get to the woke stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that we can agree on a lot of stuff there, bro. Because that's free speech is the most important thing to me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see it going away.
Nope. So on that note, I think that gets us to the end of episode 1.
Episode 1, bro.
And more to come. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
Thanks for listening.
And we're going to work out the format on if we're going to go weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever.
Yep.
We'll sort that out soon enough. But I'll get this one posted up soon, and
Excellent.
We'll see you guys soon.
Take care, guys.
Peace.